Syria has condemned an Israeli missile strike on Damascus, describing it as an attempt to destabilize the country. Israel says it wanted to send a clear message to the Syrian regime. It accuses Syria's Islamist-led government of failing to stop attacks on the Druze minority. The Israeli strike targeted an area close to the presidential palace. It follows days of sectarian violence in Druze strongholds south of Damascus. Members of the Druze community in Israel have been holding protests calling on the Israeli government to intervene in Syria. Let's get more on this from journalist Kristin Helberg, who's been following developments in Syria for the past decade. She joins us from Berlin. Welcome to DW. And let's start with a really basic question. Why is Israel bombing Syria?
Well, Israel has been bombing Syria ever since 2017. Under the regime of Bashar al-Assad, it was attacking Iranian military targets by the Revolutionary Guards there, especially arms smuggling routes to Hezbollah. And ever since the downfall of the Assad regime, it has basically destroyed the military hardware inside Syria, claiming that this new leadership is an Islamist leadership, being a threat to its own country and a threat to Syria's minorities.
Right. So the main targets in this wave of attacks, you say, are the military hardware?
Yes, but I mean, what they did last night was an attack in Damascus to an unidentified target close to the presidential palace, which is definitely being interpreted as an act of aggression. They have as well advanced on the Syrian Golan Heights. We should not forget that Syria is the only Arab country that has a territorial dispute with Israel, as the Syrian Golan Heights are still occupied by Israel. So they have advanced on the Golan Heights. There used to be a buffer zone controlled by the UN. They have been attacked in several villages on the Golan Heights while they were advancing. So it is perceived as some kind of aggression. And the argument always goes that they want to protect the Druze minority, the Druze community in the south, while at the same time, the majority of the Druze people say that they reject any kind of interference by Israel and they opt for an agreement with the new leadership in Damascus.
Right. So is it credible then that these claims that Israel is using Syria's internal sectarian problems to protect its interests in the north and around the Golan Heights? Does that sound credible?
Well, we have heard Israeli Finance Minister Smotrich just explaining what he has as a strategy for Syria when he said that there will be no peace in Syria until it is partitioned and is separated. And the problem is that Syria is a deeply divided country after 14 years of war, with a lot of people living in different realities with different narratives. So it's very easy to abuse these deep rifts within the Syrian society for its own goals. And Israel, obviously, this Israeli government considers Syria as something that they want to control. And it's easier to be controlled if it's partitioned and not a united new Syria. Whereas other analysts inside Israel obviously say that Syria would be better for Israel if it's a stable country and if it could live in good neighborhood with this new leadership. And the new leadership itself, President Ahmed al-Shara, has always said that they are not interested in any kind of conflict with Israel, and they feel obliged to respect the truce between the two countries from 1974, whereas Israel has unilaterally withdrawn from this truce agreement.
And if we look at Syria's response to this, the new president says he wants to unite the various factions and the armed forces within the country. Can he do that?
He has not fully succeeded in doing so, and this is the problem. Syria is a country full of armed groups, full of weapons, and we always see that parts of these new national security forces are not completely under his control. So there have been attacks mainly on the coast against Alawites and against a lot of Alawite civilians. What happened now in the south against the Druze community is different because it was mainly clashes between militiamen, Druze militiamen, and the new governmental security forces. They have been settled now, it seems, by an agreement. and by integrating these Druze militiamen into the new governmental security services. This has been, they have been trying to do so through an agreement. They hadn't succeeded until now. So this has been settled for now. But the Druze community is divided as well. So there's one Druze leader who still opts for Israeli protection, who is still attacking the new leadership in Damascus, whereas the majority of other militias and the majority of the Druze community says that we don't want any kind of interference. We want to settle our we want to be protected by the new security forces in Damascus.
That's very clear. Thank you for talking us through that, journalist Kristin Helberg. Many thanks.
Thanks to you.
For more, let's bring in Amir Khnifess. He's the chairman of the Israeli-Druze Center in Nizifia near Haifa. Now, sectarian violence is spreading near Damascus. Do you fear further bloodshed among the Druze community?
Well, it's clearly after the massacre, the Druze community has suffered over the last 2 days, and in a situation where 70 Druze were killed and more than thousands were injured and many missing. So obviously the situation is very bad, and the Druze community is in very high alert, whether in Syria and in Israel. We have a very high concern over our community over there.
Now, the Syrian Foreign Ministry says it is committed to protecting all Syrian groups, including the Druze community. Are Druze people safe in Syria right now?
Not really. And unfortunately, we, as many, we had the hope that after changing the regime, we believe that we are in the era of a new future for Syria, for religious and cultural community. But the violence we've seen over the last weeks, the way that this regime has treated the Alawite minority and the attacks against the Druze community over the last days prove that all our hopes are basically disappointed. And there's, unfortunately, more Druze believe that the best solution would be an autonomy for the Druze community on Syria.
Speaking about autonomy, you have said that the Druze in Syria have for the past decade essentially run their own affairs. In March, the interim government in Damascus struck a deal to integrate parts of the Druze community into state institutions. What does that mean for Druze autonomy in Syria?
Well, we really had this hope where we could have a new future under the new regime, and after we were relieved from the Assad's regime, that it's more obvious that the principles of the new states in all issues related to religion and state, or state and religion, is far from being on the line or aligned with Druze hopes for their own future in the next generation. So it's a very complicated situation where on one hand they really wanted to be and remain part of Syria, but on the other hand we can see that the principles and the thick lines, I would say, of this regime is very complicated and make it very complicated and difficult for them to remain under the control of this regime. So as a result of that, there are more Druze who believe that the best solution will be for all sides. It's through establishing an independent autonomy in the southern part of Syria.
Well, the Druze community is spread across Syria, Israel and Lebanon. Is the community now more united or divided after the change of power in Damascus?
Well, obviously, for a community that had long endured a civil war for almost 2 decades, there is different views over their future, and the situation is very complicated. It would be hard to say that there is an agreement between the Druze community about their future. But what is clear for all sides is the principle that we are very consists that we want to have a safeguarding for the Druze community in Syria, in Lebanon, and Israel. And the second thing is the right of the Druze community in Syria to stay in relation with their families, whether in the Golan Heights or in Israel. So obviously there are different views about the relation with the central regime, about the relation about the other, whether it's the autonomy or not. But where is it clear for everyone is what we want to see is, as I said, is a safeguarding for the Druze community in Syria, and the other things, their full right of being in full relationship and in contact with their families in the Golan Heights, in Israel, and obviously in other parts around the world.
Amir Khnifess there, the chairman of the Israeli-Druze Center. Thank you very much.